and welcome, self-made authors. Today we have very special guest. We have USA Today best-selling author Renee Rose. She loves a dominant, dirty talking alpha hero. She's sold over 1 million copies of steamy romance with varying levels of kink. Her books have been featured in USA Today's Happily Ever After and Pop Sugar. Named Eroticon's USA's Next Top Erotic Author in 2013, she has also won Spunky and Sassy's Favorite Sci-Fi and Anthology Author and Romance Review's Best Historical Romance. She's hit the USA Today list 7 times with her Wolf Ranch books and various anthologies. She's won several awards to include her book King of Diamonds, being selected the 2021 Editor's Choice Award in the Author Shout Reader Ready Awards. From steamy Regencies to passionate Avalon medievals, smoking hot westerns, or contemporary spy, paranormal, or mafia romances, she has it all. Welcome, Renee Rose.
Thank you so much. That was quite the intro.
It was powerful, you know. Yeah, I was talking and I was like, I had an author one time that really just, I kind of shocked with the intro. She wasn't really prepared for it and you know, jumped out of her chair a little bit and I was slightly distracted by the reaction, but it was awesome to see you smiling the whole way through and I'm excited to talk to you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, you have a wide variety of genres and books that you write in. It's absolutely mind-numbing to think that all these opportunities are out there for authors to write all these different subjects, all these different genres, all these different possibilities. So what inspired you to write in so many different genres?
Yeah, I definitely break that rule of, stay in your lane. The one they tell you, you get your branding and you only write Western or you only write historical or whatever. I guess I get bored easily. I like to jump around and I think for me, my readers they know they're always going to get a dominant hero, alpha male. And so that's the lane I stay in. So that's that lane. And then within that lane, I do everything else.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, there's lots of opportunities that are out there and I see authors. So I challenged an author one time and this is exactly how I put it. I was like, look, let me ask you a question. Are you an author or are you a writer? Interestingly enough, the answer, it didn't surprise me because I really had kind of a trick question, or really kind of a third answer. I was like, you're a content creator. So when you're writing your books and you're writing your stories, you're developing your characters, your scenes, your scenarios, do you kind of approach it from an author or a writer perspective or a content creator's perspective? How do you approach that?
I do think of myself as an author. But I definitely I am conscious of market. One of my mentors who I admire very much, Sky Warren, she'd wrote this newsletter to authors on her newsletter list. And she said, plant your seeds in spring. In other words, you can still write what you want, but you don't plant the seeds in the wrong time. So if you know that it's spring and such is selling, stepbrother books are selling, then maybe you can write your idea as a stepbrother book or,
right.
And so I've kind of followed that. When trends are hitting, I try to hit them too,
That's a great approach because you're absolutely correct. And that's one of the things that I like to touch on as well, too. There's opportunity in trends and seasons. So I love the fact that you don't limit yourself to just, okay, I'm just a romance author or I'm just, whatever the case may be. And I've seen a lot of authors make that mistake of limiting themselves. Oh, I'm, this. Here's the interesting thing. Amazon literally opens the door wide open for so many categories and genres. It's mind-numbing trying to pick and select which one that you want. So during the holidays, for example, you got these Christmas books. You've got all these different types of things that can happen. So I like the fact that you take that route. You take advantage of maybe a season or a trend or an opportunity. So let me ask you this. Do you ever catch yourself, I guess, being reserved to an opportunity?
No, I mean, I think I'm more of a yes person. I tend
Okay.
take on too much. So, like so yeah, I think usually if I hear something, I'm like, yep, let's do that too. And we'll also do that. And okay,
Right.
yeah, I'm a yes woman
Okay.
for sure.
That's awesome. So writing in different genres or different styles, it's easy to kind of cross-pollinate certain styles or certain things or certain way that you say things. Is it pretty fair game with you, or do you get kind of wild and crazy with your writing style depending on the genre that you're writing in?
So I'm not writing historical. Like if I bounce between historicals and contemporary, you'd really have to watch your writing style with that.
Mm,
And maybe that's why I haven't written historicals anymore.
uh-huh.
Um, but otherwise, they're all, they're usually kind of like dirty talking. There's sort of a lot of swearing.
Ah.
Um, yeah, kind of the same
So,
style.
so speaking of that right there, I don't know, there's many genres. Okay, you got romance, you got erotica, you got all this. When it comes to writing a scene, like a love scene or a sex scene, do you approach those differently? Like, hey, I'm going to be clean here. I'm going to be as nasty as I want to be there. However the case, how do you approach that?
No, I mean, for me, those scenes are usually the easiest to write. Like
Oh,
that's
okay.
like when I'm getting word count in, I'm like, oh, good, it's a sex scene like that. I can just like fill the page. Like that's the easy part. Is
Uh-huh.
the It's like putting together the other plot points. That's usually the harder part for me.
What about shocking the reader? How would you shock the reader? Because at the end of the day, a kiss is a kiss, a hug is a hug. I mean, sex is what it is. How would you go about either surprising or shocking the reader? I mean, after all, a lot of things have been kind of said and done. How could you shock a reader?
I don't try to, but I do believe that if I find something hot, then someone else does. And so
Okay.
I just go by like, where do my own fantasies take me? And then
Right.
know that, and I also know that they're not everyone's cup of tea. Like I definitely sometimes get where someone is like, what did I just read? I was not up for that, and of course I think it's pretty clear now from my blurbs. I don't get those so much anymore, but um, yeah, I think that the people who like what I like find me.
Right. Well, you're pretty tuned in to your audience and your readers, everything. So you already know what your readers want. And a lot of times that's good to write towards what the reader wants, but you ever find yourself writing what you want?
I think always. Like I think I'm always
Always.
writing for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course I'm trying to make a good story for them, but it's always like, and when things don't work is when I'm bored. Like I'm trying to
Okay.
finish a book and I'm like it's not working for me, and then it's also not going to work for your reader. Like
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I can see how the ups and downs and how emotional that can be. So when you're getting ready to, I guess, so I like that you mentioned bored, but when you're getting ready to finish a book, which sometimes that's pretty challenging. It's like you're trying to tie in the last little bit, the last little thing. How do you find yourself there at the end when you're just really trying to get the book out there at the end? Do you find that a struggle towards the end of the book or throughout the book or starting a book?
it's the middle. Like the end is
Okay.
easy, the beginning's usually easy, and then it's the old like saggy middle problem.
Mm,
And sometimes, you get lost in the middle. Like you
mm,
forget, either you never knew what the end was and you're
right.
trying to get there, but you're not sure what it is, or you forgot where you started. And so now you're writing something different. Like the
Right.
book I just finished, I got lost in the weeds for sure.
Okay.
Um, where I didn't know the details. It's a Bratva, so Russian mafia book.
Okay.
And there were like, I didn't know like the bad guy details, like how that was going to shake out. And so then I just thought, well, I'll figure it out as I go along. But then not having figured it out, yeah, I got lost. I got
How
lost
do you
for,
get out of the weeds? So you mentioned getting lost in the weeds. So as you're writing your book and here it is, I'm stuck. How do you get out of those weeds? How do you look for inspiration or, some type of something to get yourself out of those weeds?
a lot of times I'll go back and just start reading from the beginning. And
Mhm.
this particular book, I had to do that twice, which for me,
Uh-huh.
that's a lot.
That's
It
a
was a
lot.
lot. And like, here I am rereading from the beginning again, like, wow. But then you kind of get the flavor of it, and then you figure out where it's supposed to go, you know?
Right. Okay. Do you
Because
ever outline your book?
I do. I mean, that's why like I shouldn't have gotten lost. I mean, I had an outline, it just wasn't, I don't think it was well thought out enough. Or
Uh-huh. Do
I
you
do
have
also,
do you have a particular software, a particular method that you use?
I follow the Romancing the Beat
Okay.
um, by Gwen, I think Gwen Knight, Gwen, yeah, no, I think, sorry, I'll have to look that up. It's really great of the books for the beats for a romance book.
Okay.
And as soon as I started following, a lot of them, like, I think you follow them naturally anyway, you know, it's sort of like the way every story goes. But once I read that book and got clear on them, that's when people really started saying, like, wow, you know, your book, like, this is really different. Like, they started going, they just felt more perfect, I think, when you
Right.
follow the beats. There's just a natural, innate, those beats are just so familiar to people.
Mhm. I can relate. I can understand. So, me myself personally, I'm a nonfiction author. I write personal development, self-help, professional development, life, leadership type books, and I do have a framework that I write all of my books in. So I can relate to that. Having a framework to write a book is, you know, it's powerful and it's also helpful as well too. So a lot of times, like you mentioned, getting stuck in the weeds, having to go back, it seems like such a time suck, especially if you have to go back to the back and read. And, you know, and a lot of times following the process does help, you know, it does help you get all the way through. And that works for me as well, too. So let's kind of shift gears here a little bit. Let's talk about some characters. All right. So, what makes a good leading male character?
You know, I always want them like very protective,
Mm,
probably jealous, like sort of possessive, definitely dominant, you
mhm.
know, badass in some way, whether it's like they're like my the current hero I'm writing in the Shifter Ops series, like they're like special ops guys, you know, so they're like just total badass.
Yeah,
Um,
everybody loves a bad
or
boy.
the right, or the mafia guys are just the, you know, like they're like criminal bad guys or, you know, badasses.
Right.
So looking for, yeah, they kick ass at something.
That's it. You got to bust down doors and take some women with you. I get it.
I saw someone post on Facebook the other day. They're like, so tell me, how often in your real life have you been tossed over a shoulder and carried out of a room? Because, you know, that happens in the romance novels all the time.
Uh,
So I was like, I can't remember the last time.
I don't even think that happens anymore. I'm going to club you over the head, put you over my shoulder, and I'm going to take you out the door.
I'm
And
trying to remember if it ever happened. Not,
eh,
not sure about that.
not sure about that. Yeah, you know, avoiding cliches is really kind of, it gets to be challenging from an author perspective to just not fall into the cliche of writing, like, you know, characters and scenes and this, that, and the other. How do you avoid cliches?
I so I think what I've noticed, and I wouldn't say I've mastered this, but like as a reader or even like a watcher of movies,
Mhm.
it's like the ones that where like the character gets a little, it's the quirk. It's like when you go like, so you can have the good story, but then it's not memorable unless you have like the real, like some little quirks that are,
Right.
those are the things that make it more memorable.
Right. You know, speaking of tossing women over the shoulders and stuff like that, it's been said that behind every successful man is a strong woman. How do you approach writing women in your stories?
I run the gamut between, like, I have, sometimes they are like really soft and sweet, sometimes
Mhm.
they are super feisty, sometimes they're kind of bratty. Like, I definitely don't have a certain type. I know some people are like, I only write strong heroines. That's not
Mhm.
true of me. I do have some that are like very submissive, you know,
Uh-huh.
and some that are like fight back tooth and nail. So like I
Right.
kind of play with all of them.
Okay. Have you ever found inspiration? I mean, I guess from a maybe a friend or a family member or someone that you've seen. Have you ever found inspiration in writing a character from people that you know or seen?
all the time, you know,
All the
like,
time? Okay.
or like a situation, or yeah, or also people, like sometimes even just when I'm modeling, like, oh, what does she look like? And I'm like, oh, she looks like that girl at dance class, you know, like I just to
Okay.
have someone who, you know, like a face to put on your character, like.
Right. So let's talk about alpha males. Have you ever written in two alpha males?
Yeah.
Okay. What about an alpha male and an alpha female?
Yes. That
Okay.
also. Yeah.
How does that work out? I mean, do you find a certain conflict between the two and there's this constant struggle between the two for dominance in this set? How did you approach that?
Yeah, I mean that's usually like the feisty heroine, or the strong
Mm,
feisty heroine, and a lot of people like they only want to read that. So yeah, it is fun because then it's like the push pull
mm.
between the two that's like becomes the entertainment. Um, and of course, you know, of course they both win at the end.
They both win in the end.
Right?
So do they get each other or?
Yeah, I mean usually, well, I mean I'm not sure if this is totally true, but I think, you know, I usually have this like cocky hero who is brought to his knees by the end. And whether she was the soft or the feisty heroine,
Okay.
regardless, love took him down, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears over to publishing and marketing. So you're independently published.
Mm-hmm.
What struggles have you experienced being independently published? Because I know there's lots of things that, you know, independent authors struggle with out there. What's been some of your biggest roadblocks or some of your biggest struggles, and how did you overcome them?
I'm like, what struggles have I not had? Like, you name it, I bet you I've had it.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's so many things like from mastering ads to, you know, deciding whether you're going to be wide or Kindle Unlimited. Um, all of those things are like, and it's just a constantly changing game, you know, to
Right.
chasing a trend, if you're chasing a trend. And
Mhm.
I'm pretty flexible. So I have chased trends, and I have, you know, I've gone all in on Facebook marketing. I've gone all in on Kindle Unlimited, and now I just went all in on wide.
Mm.
So, um, I kind of just try to surf the waves, honestly.
Right. You know, Amazon makes it, you know, they really kind of make it easy for authors to publish a book. You got the Kindle Direct Publishing program. And, you know, and there's challenges within that as well, too. And then I think that there was something where it was $25 where you can pay that and you can get, you know, distribution elsewhere and this, that, and the other. I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but I know it used to be. Um, and then they have different marketing right there within Amazon or within, you know, the Kindle program. There's lots of options that are out there for authors. I mean, if you could share maybe something with publishing books on Amazon, like maybe something to look out for or something to basically be mindful of, what would that be?
Well, in my opinion, you know, if you're on like Kindle Unlimited, I think is good
Hmm.
for new authors because
Yes.
it gets you out there. I also think there's a to be really successful on Kindle Unlimited takes a big ad spend because you want to hit really high. And so it's a bit of a gamble because you don't, you know, when you're advertising a book that's just like a flat price, you know, day by day whether you're getting a return on your investment.
Right.
For Kindle Unlimited, you're banking on getting those page reads later. And
Exactly.
so
Mhm.
sometimes it, you know, it can feel like quite a gamble. And so, you know, I wouldn't play with money you don't have, but I have had, you know, where like we spend 12,000 and I make 50,000. Like
Mhm.
you know, it can return big.
Right.
But then I've also found like going wide, I've also found like for no ad spend, I can make 50,000. So,
Mhm.
and it's not as stressful. Like the launches aren't like, you don't have to big launch wide, you know?
Right.
So it's interesting. And
So shift to note. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
I would say the money's about the same. Like I wouldn't say like, oh, you're going to make more money here or you make more money there. It's just a
Mhm.
different game.
It's a gamble sometimes, and I know that. I mean, I've talked to authors, and I've heard authors say that they've lost all kinds of money doing marketing and advertising, didn't get the return on investment that they wanted, you know. And there's a lot of stuff that really goes into marketing a book and really promoting a book. And one of the biggest things that I always talk to authors about is being your own biggest fan. And I know that being your own biggest fan has a lot to do with it, because basically you're the marketing, you're the advertising. I've seen authors that they'll put a book out there and then that's it. And then just kind of hope for the best and just let Amazon take over and this, that, and the other. And so do you have a team that helps you out with marketing, with social media, or do you do all that yourself as well too?
I mostly do that myself. I do have someone who helps me with social media, but
Okay. And
I
and
agree with being your biggest fan. Like I'm also like, that's kind of what I tell people is like the best that you can do is just love your books. Because when you start getting into all that self-doubt, it just crushes your whole game.
it really does. Absolutely. So how do you change up social media? So I know that there's different approaches to social media. You got audio, you got video, you got text, you got, just straight out images of buy my book. I mean, there's lots of ways to approach marketing. What would be your best marketing tip for authors wanting to know a marketing tip to sell more books or gain more visibility?
I do think, I got this tip from you, but I've certainly heard it before. And it's really like put yourself. There's an author who I watch who just has like a bajillion followers, and she posts like 3 selfies a day with like cute just cute things about her day to day stuff. And so it's, again, maybe it's being your biggest fan, right? But then that gives them the window to get to know you. And I feel like I'm often more shy and reserved about that. Like, oh, they don't want to see me. And especially I'm in my yoga pants today, right? Like I gotta feel like I gotta do my hair first, but I think you're right. I think, and people have said like, oh, if I post my book cover on Instagram versus me holding my book, it's like 3 times more clicks with you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
So we shared the story, and I told you about the author Jim West, on how he's like his biggest billboard. The guy's 6'4". He always wears his T-shirt everywhere that he goes. He has his logo. He has his website on the back. So everywhere he goes, there's his marketing right there for him. So what do you believe in when it comes to author or book swag, like bookmarks and keychains? And oh my God, I've seen all kinds of stuff, and the opportunities are just endless when it comes to that. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I am more a fan. I do have swag. I have like lip gloss, and I have some I've got it. Like, see, there's cups up there. I've got tumblers, I've got mugs, I've got little keychains that say book lover. But I feel like that stuff I think is more for conventions or shows, readings. What am I trying to say? Signings.
Right.
But in terms of like bang for your buck, I would say like get books into people's hands, like give away your books. You want to find a reader, not necessarily a lip gloss user, right?
Right. So what about like free chapters and like you just mentioned giving away a book. And I believe that there's power in that, giving away a free book, giving away a free chapter, signing up for a newsletter or an email. And that's one of the things that I love about your website. You have an absolutely amazing looking website. I love it. And when somebody goes to your website, you know what? It's right there. You have it here. Get my newsletter. You get these free books. You get this. I'm walking you through the process of my books, my genres. Like, your website is beautifully built, and I love it. And how important is capturing that email address to you?
That, to me, that is my number one. Like that,
Absolutely.
I feel like my mailing list, I mean, maybe aside from like my manuscripts, is like my number one asset.
I believe that wholeheartedly as well too. There's power in a list. Yeah. And I think that, when authors understand, hey, I need to build my social media, and that is important. Don't get me wrong. I believe that building and growing social media is important, but building that email list is more important. And here's why I say that: because social media could go away tomorrow. Facebook could be gone tomorrow. Twitter could be gone tomorrow.
Like you work so hard to build your likes on your page, and then suddenly they don't show it to anybody anymore.
Exactly. The algorithm changes, and that affects everything and everybody. But you know what? You control that list.
Yes.
Mostly. I say mostly, and the reason why I say mostly is because there's other things that affect that as well too. And there is power in a list, and that's one of the points that I kind of wanted to hit on right there. So when you're posting on social media and you're sending things out to your email, do you notice a difference in return on investment on those between those two?
Huge. Yeah, my newsletter is huge.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have like 70,000 people. So like if I send out a newsletter with a new book, like I should hit top 200 just with the
Mhm.
newsletter, you know?
Right. So that basically hammers home the point that I was making. There's power in the list. There's
Yeah.
absolute power in the list. You
Yeah.
can send out an email right now, and by tomorrow, you've sold books, you've made sales, you've made contact with people that are excited for that next newsletter to come out, that next announcement to come out, that next whatever to come out. And I'm glad to see that you're doing that, because there's extreme power in a list. There really is.
Yeah.
So if you had one golden nugget, all right, so for all the authors that are out there watching, we're always looking for like that best advice, that golden nugget. This is that one thing that could potentially take me from right here to, being where I'm at, to being a USA Today bestselling author, or even better. What would that one golden nugget be to somebody?
So my number one advice I give anybody, which I've already mentioned it, is just love your books.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if you love your books, you will take them seriously enough to promote them, and also, like, if you love your books while you're writing it, you're going to take your story seriously enough to make it good, to make your characters full and round. um, After the story is written, if you love your books, you're gonna love them enough to like get your audio made and care about promoting that. And I also just think, like, the more, it's that thing where like whatever you put into it, you get back. So the more you love it, the more your readers are gonna love it. That's just the way it works. Like
That is
you can tell when you read someone's book whether they loved writing it or not, or whether they were just like, like just busting it out for another book.
right. That's awesome. So I want to kind of touch in on something that you said there. And I love the way that you said that, because, and I'm going to quote somebody here. So Seth Godin had a very great quote, and it's different people consume different things differently. And I like the fact that you talk about, you got your books, your audio books, there's lots of opportunities to connect with people. And I think that that's one of the things that authors tend to neglect is, what, different people consume different things differently. So if you got an ebook, get a paperback. If you can get an audiobook, get an audiobook. If you can turn it into a special cover, hardcover book, or whatever the case may be, increase your opportunities or the options so that you increase your opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And that's powerful when you do that. And I love the fact that you have increased the options for your potential reader, your potential listener, your potential super fan, your potential buyer, whatever label we want to put on that. I love the fact that you have increased your options and opportunities. That's golden.
Yeah. And I would even say, like, get it translated. I was nervous. I just launched into translations last year, and I was
Mhm.
nervous, like, not knowing if the stories themselves would translate. And
Mhm.
then I was just so delighted to find out, like, yes, they want to read the same thing in Germany that they want to read here. And, like they want to read
Right.
the same thing in France.
Mhm.
Like, doesn't matter what language, they still like the story.
Exactly. It connects with people. I can relate to that because I have one of my books that it's funny because it's a bestseller in the UK, but not in the US. And I'm like, I find that kind of interesting that one of my books would be a bestseller in the UK, and it just doesn't really sell as well as it does over here in the US. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And there's lots of opportunities in other markets as well too. And I know that content, it can get quite costly. So in reference to cost, what would be your recommendation translating books into multiple languages, whether it be audio or whether it be text or whatever the case? What would be your recommendation to cut back or to at least minimize the cost on that?
You're right. It is costly. But I think you'd make it back
Hmm.
pretty quick. So,
I can see that.
with the exception of Spanish, I'm going to say don't try Spanish.
I can see that. So I have an author friend of mine who translates books in multiple languages. Not him himself. He outsources it. So outsources all of the languaging, and his books are a bestseller in like the Chinese markets, for example.
Wow.
You know, and that's very interesting. Now he's got young adult children's type books, and it's interesting that he's a bestseller in other markets. So my point with that is that explore the opportunities.
Yeah,
As an
and there's
author,
some like I tried Japanese, it hasn't gone well yet. Spanish
uh-huh.
hasn't gone well, but also maybe I haven't found the right outlets for those. Like you're right, just you got to keep exploring. And that's the thing is where like if you love your books, you'll keep pushing on it. Like, okay, where else can I
Mhm.
put this? Or what else might work?
Exactly.
You don't give up on it.
Not at all. You got to be your biggest fan, your biggest super fan. Well, Renee, it was great talking to you tonight. So if anybody wants to get connected with you, where can somebody get connected with Renee Rose?
My website is reneeroseromance.com. But if you're an author, I would love to find you I have a Facebook group for authors, and it's called Abundance Mindset for Authors. So it's just about
Mindset for Authors on Facebook.
Yep, about being positive and attracting abundance to your author career.
That is awesome. And so thanks for sharing all your valuable knowledge, your experience, your wisdom. You know, once again, as an author, you have to explore the opportunities. You have to explore the possibilities. Don't put a lid or a limit on yourself as an author. Go out there, write that next best-selling book. And you know what? One of these days, you as an author, you might be just like Renee Rose here, a USA Today best-selling author selling millions of books all over the place. So thank you for watching. Renee, thank you for joining me here tonight. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.
All right. Thanks so much.